Welcome back to Made Conversations. Happy to be welcoming these conversations back to my home away from home, Elm Street right here in New Haven, the greatest small city in America. There might be some debate about that coming up.
I've let you say that every episode, and I've not said anything.
Here.
I should get an award for that.
I'm Mike Cerulli, political reporter here at News 8.
And I'm Melissa Shakatoff, host of Melissa in the Morning on WICC.
And we are so happy to be joined by our latest guest, Taneisha Duggan, which we discussed the pronunciation of last names. We might get into that. I know we're going to get into my comment about the greatest small city in America because you are the Director of Arts, Culture, and Entertainment for the capital city place I spend a lot of time in reporting on the politics of our state, Hartford, Connecticut.
Yes. It's true. You know, I have to say, I have a lot of love for Hartford. It is definitely my city. It is the capital city, so it's Connecticut City, truly. But, you know, we'll give the little brother a run for his money. You know, New Haven, you know, it's doing its part for the family. And we gotta, you know, respect and support. But, you know, the capital is the capital.
Yes. I will say there is someone who works for someone who works for the governor. Someone who works for the governor. His name might be Johnny Doc, who him and I have discussed that one of the great mistakes in Connecticut's history is moving the capital from New Haven Hartford.
That's hilarious.
That's one of my favorite beefs, right? Like, it was going back and forth for a number of years, and then it's like Thanksgiving, right? 1 year,
yes,
New Haven was the capital, and then a couple years later it was Hartford before it finally was Hartford. And I mean, you know, it's in the center of the state. It makes a lot of sense.
It's a good point. What brought you to Hartford?
So my parents did. I was born outside of D.C. I like to call myself a Southern girl, but anyone from the South would tell you that Alexandria, Virginia may not be the South, but I still claim my Southern belle status. But my parents moved up here for work, and so I mostly grew up in Connecticut. Went to the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts, which was in Hartford, and that's sort of where my Hartford story began. And a lot of my professional life happened in Hartford. I got my equity card as an actor at Theater Works in Hartford. My first professional acting gig I got at Hartford Stage in Hartford. Worked at Theater Works as the artistic producer there for 7 years before taking some work at a commercial theater producing company in New York. So a lot of my growth as a human, but also as a professional person, happened in Hartford.
The equity card, such a milestone for performing, for those on the stage that perform. How old were you when you got your equity card?
So I got that shortly after college, and I did a show called Race by David Mamet, which was incredible. And you know, it's like one of those things that you dream about, like you say. You know? And a lot of times, especially when you're sort of cutting your teeth in Connecticut, they're like, wait, don't get your equity card until you're ready.
Because you can do other productions.
That's exactly right. And there's not a whole lot of equity houses in Connecticut. So if you're sort of centered here, it can limit you. But for me, it was a trampoline, you know, and I started doing stuff other places.
Yeah, we're all proud to be members here of the Screen Actors Guild.
Of course.
I have friends who are actors.
Proud.
Yeah, I have friends who are actors who getting your SAG card is similar to rite of passage. Here, you have to sign up for it before you go in front of a camera and start speaking words. So it's very interesting. But
union proud I am, I have to say, you know.
Nice little bond there.
I think that's really neat. I'm curious, Taneisha, especially because you have that perspective of, you know, certainly you mentioned, you know, even doing time in New York. What do you think makes Connecticut unique when it comes to the arts and culture and entertainment?
Yeah. I mean, Connecticut is a small state, but there's so much here, right? So whether it's rural, city, coastline, there's a lot that can sort of inspire an artist. And there's a lot of people. You know, we talked about our different last names and where we come from, right? My last name is pronounced, I pronounce it Duggan, but it's meant to be pronounced Duggan. It's an Irish last name. My great-grandfather is an Irishman, right? My grandfather is a Jamaican man. Like, there's something about Connecticut that is so essentially multicultural, and that feels very, very American to me. And I think that is the sort of ground floor for fruitful culture, right? It's like the smash up of people in place and the stories that we tell because of that.
Let's talk about the arts scene here in Connecticut. We'll start with the theaters where your background is. And I think I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like Connecticut particularly maybe Southern Connecticut and the shoreline has this very strong, rich history
we
of
crush it.
of summer theaters.
I will say, I mean, I'm just saying, obviously we're not Hartford, but I mean, we got the
Yeah.
Park City, we got Bridgeport,
Yeah.
Norwalk Film Festival, Stamford crushes it down. I mean,
Yeah.
we got
Hey,
it going on.
my hometown of Trumbull.
See?
Yes.
The location of Elia Kazan used to go up to Trumbull and take his
Okay.
to Pinewood Lake. He would take his productions up there, summer theaters. So tell us.
O'Neill
Yeah.
Festival,
Yeah,
one of
exactly.
the most incredible, preeminent, united, like national theater festivals.
Okay, guys, see? I'm telling ya.
I represent Hartford. That's the city that I live in. That's the city that I work for. But I'm a Connecticut girl, and you're right. Theater is so deep in our state, from border to border, right? You can go all the way up to, Torrington, right? And the Warner up there. You can come all the way down south to the Schubert. Obviously, Hartford Stage, the Bushnell. We could go on, and I would leave folks out. Seven Angels, right? Like, I
Yeah.
could just list so many theaters that have made us, right? Made the TV and film that you watch, because I remember I went to SUNY Purchase, and a lot of my acting friends would go to the theater, the Shakespeare Festival,
Yeah.
Sure.
down in like right outside of Greenwich.
Yes.
And that's where they all would spend their
Yes.
summer stock, right?
Yeah.
So Connecticut has a deep legacy of performance, of live performance, and I'm grateful you pointed out the theater, because that is
Yes.
my background.
Yeah, I mean, well, and even, I mean, not to get away, because I love the theater as well, is even the fact that earlier this year, Connecticut became the first in the nation to have a Christmas tree movie trail. I mean, the fact that a lot of the Christmas movies that everyone's become obsessed with, they're shot here, or they're meant to, come off as a Connecticut background sort of a film. So there is something very, I think, unique, specifically, especially, with arts and entertainment, because we're right between two of the most, I think, biggest, cities, Boston and New York. And I think it's really incredible that Connecticut stands on its own. Sports, maybe other businesses, we've always had to sort of, I think, compete. But I feel like with the arts, we've just always had our own entity in Connecticut.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think it's the sort of conflation of industry and arts that makes Connecticut so special. And I think it's because we're in the center of these like industrial powerhouses. So like, the Goodwin Hotel in Hartford was once the mansion of J.P. Morgan, right? J.P. Morgan was down the street from Mark Twain, right? Like, and I'm sort of colliding decades and times, but like my point is that industry and art combined together is what makes us iconic, what makes us stand out. And I think it's that sort of energy that we've got to sort of come back to. And it's really the sort of the mashup of those, what we think in binary are like completely different aspects. No. When they come together, real magic happens. This is how we get a Declaration of Independence, right? Benjamin Franklin was a scientist and a politician and a musician, right? Like, that's how we became who we are. And so putting those things together is key.
Can you tell us, there might be someone that would have maybe a knee-jerk response and say, well, of course Connecticut's a great arts area because we're right outside of arguably the cultural capital of the world in New York City. Does Connecticut have a distinctive artistic and cultural identity, or
Good
is it just you're going to Tisch in New York and you need to do something in the summer, so hey, let's go to the Westport Country Playhouse, or let's go to the Shoreline Theater Company or something? Can you tell us about Connecticut's unique artistic and cultural, distinct from New York, distinct from Boston, distinct from anywhere else in the world?
Yeah. I think Connecticut is like a really good, like, I was gonna say steak, but it's like a steak that's like, it's like a stewed meat, right? Which is like, it needs a lot of pressure, but then it also needs the release, right? And so you've got the pressure of these places around us. You've got the competition of a New York and a Boston, which I think plays into the heads of creative people here. But there's space here, right? There's opportunity to sort of like release and relax, which I think is where great ideas come from. It's sort of, again, that sort of combination. So that feels like the personality of Connecticut art, right? It's that hustle, and it's that striving, and it's that real, like, tough, driving energy mixed with the opportunity to sort of relax and wait.
We've teed up a lot of great things here. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I think we should dive more into not only what makes Connecticut special as an arts hub and culture hub, but what makes an arts and culture hub in the first place. So we'll be right back with more on Made Conversations. And welcome back to Made Conversations, continuing our great talk with Taneisha Duggan, the Director of Arts, Culture, and Entertainment, ACE, as it were, Hartford's ACE,
Yes.
up in the capital city. You mentioned a lot of things in our first segment about the partnership between industry and the arts, about space, about spaces that are conducive to arts. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here.
Yes,
We're filming this right now in mid-July, and I was just watching all of the clips from the Glastonbury Music Festival over in the UK. And one of the things, aside from Glastonbury itself being a great place for arts and culture, is there was a number of groups and people inspired by groups. And you think about the British music scene, the Oasis reunions happening now. They're from Manchester, and the Smiths are from Manchester, and some of the more modern British groups like the 1975 are from Manchester. And they all talk about
One Direction.
I mean,
yeah, and
I wasn't going to say it, but yes, I'm with you.
they all talk about not just the UK, but specific cities, Manchester, obviously London, being these places that just, there's something in the water, there's something in the air that creates a string. And yeah, Manchester, from the Smiths and the Stone Roses through Oasis in the 1975, like they create this sort of font of artistic
Like a
creation.
synergy.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are visual artists and filmmakers that also were part of that. You think of Greenwich Village or something like that. This is a huge question, but like, what is that sedimentary layer of a place that then inspires artists, or is it artists that make a place?
And how does where does greatness come from?
Where does greatness come from?
Right, there you go.
Where does
Easy
art?
question.
Where does
you.
art come from?
Great art come from? I know. So
Give us
easy.
the answer.
And how do we make Hartford that?
Right?
Yeah. Well, I have to say Hartford is that, right?
Yeah.
I when I first came into the role, I did a lot of sort of interviews with institutions and artists, and I would like have these conversations with artists and be like, you guys are so dope, and there's so many of you, because I've had the luxury of talking to all of you, right? And it's like, you're here and you're doing it, and there's a community. And I think our job, as a municipality, but also, y'all's job as media, is to really tell the stories, because they're working.
Yeah.
And they're like making the art, and they're doing the thing. And I think those bands that you spoke to lived together in a time when we're making things, but the people witnessing it spoke about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the sort of thing that, Connecticut is a humble place, land of steady habits.
Right.
And I think what we're walking into is remaining humble,
Yeah.
remaining clear about who we are, and not being particularly shiny, right? We're not a New York, we're not a Los Angeles, but we have great people, we have great art, we have great culture, and now it's our job to tell the story.
I think what I hear you saying is Melissa and I should, on our company cards, go to Black Eyed Sally's on a Friday and report on that.
If that's what you're suggesting, this is
Take
the
notes.
best thing ever.
News 8 and
Go to
WICC
Capitol
management.
Brew.
I think we're done with the podcast. This
Jazz
was
Fest
fun.
is
All
free.
right.
Yeah.
Go to Jazz Fest. Yeah.
I like it. I was thinking about this as you just reiterated, Mike, that there is space, which was something you were talking about before, Taneisha. I want to use an example. I might embarrass him a little bit, but Michael Pollack, New Haven Pizza Club. I mean, this is somebody who is a Connecticut guy, and I use him as an example because I think there's two things happening here. One, you've got a guy who is just willing to push the limits. Don't care. I'm an artist. I'm going to try different things, and I'm going to see what sticks, kind of a thing. But there's the other side of it too, which is that there are huge entities like a Modern that are like, I'm going to give this guy a shot. I'm going to try this. And I think that, I would imagine, is also what makes a difference versus like a New York or a Boston. Those stakes, I'm not saying that they're higher than ours, but I think it is so much harder for that when we talk about synergy and greatness. I mean, you look at the amazing success this guy has had in the last couple of years in the New Haven Pizza Club, and that we've become the pizza capital of the country. I mean, that is an artist and a local pizzeria saying, hey, let's do something together. I don't know if you'll find that in a New York or a Boston or other places, because you have to have that level of pride. You're a Connecticut guy, I'm a Connecticut entity, let's work together and see what happens, right?
Yeah. I mean, one, he's got to live up to the last name. Pollock is,
Yes.
an iconic artistic last name. So
Sure.
we had to do something with that, right?
Right, yeah, exactly.
But I think you're right, that I think this idea of working together is much different in a state like Connecticut. Having lived in New York, you work together for the purpose of one of us trying to get ahead.
Correct.
Right? And I think Connecticut and Hartford has this energy of like, we're going to work together because we are going to get ahead, right? And that is, to me, makes all the difference. And I also think, like, as a person, again, working inside government, my job is to create the infrastructure to allow more of that to happen, right? You know, I came up in a time where, like, networking events was like the thing, right? And I think those essentially are great, but I think you also need the people, the mentors, the sort of folks with the 50,000 foot view to go, you guys, I see possibility and magic between what you two do.
And not surface. I mean, I think that's what makes Made even different. When this concept first came together, I know when we were sort of like figuring out, you know, what exactly are you asking us to do? What are we talking about here? This was more than a networking. This was not, you know, just going and having a business networking event. This was even going deeper and having those personal conversations and not just surface level questions and I'm going to listen to you lecture and then I'm going to go home and try to remember what you said. Like it's more than that, to your point.
Yeah. One of the things I learned, I was a National Art Strategies fellow, and in the first couple of days they teach you deep fast, right? Like they want you to go deep fast. And the benefit of those kinds of relationships is that we're all still connected. And I think that's something that's like inherently Connecticut, right? This deep fast. And I think we lived through a time that it wasn't really popular to go deep fast, right? It was much more popular to sort of, like you said, stay surface, know as many people as you possibly can know, right? But I think this return to deep, right, is... To your point.
It's more trusting and I think builds confidence.
Yeah. And then the relationships are longer, right? Like the things that we're building, to me, I think are built to last, right? We're not sort of building 30-second moments. We're building memories that, like, we will hopefully tell our grandchildren, and our grandchildren will go, oh, my grandma said this thing, and she told me the story about this place. Let's go to that pizza shop. Let's go to the Wadsworth because she held my hand in front of this picture, and I gotta go back to the Wadsworth, right? Like that's the kinds of things that I'm hoping to build.
Can we deconstruct that a little bit? And back to this notion of space, I see kind of two elements to this. One is the performing arts spaces, whether that be theater companies, whether that be, I mean, I was driving around Hartford a few weeks ago and saw these great murals on the side of like old, they looked like old storage units, and they were just, each artist had taken it. What do you do in your role to build the actual presentation or performance space in a civic community, perhaps in partnership with property owners and philanthropic entities? How do you, I mean, we all go to the Bushnell and say, oh, presented by Eversource, presented by this, but that might be the most clear example, but give us some examples of how you as a leader build that presenting space, and then we'll talk about some other elements of the space equation.
Yeah. So I look at space probably from a theater person's perspective, which is that like the scenic design of where we live is really important. And so space to me is as big as architecture and city planning, and it is as small as the murals on the wall. And I don't say that as a small thing because it contributes to how you feel when you're in a place. It's so good to hear you say, I went through Hartford and this is what I remember. But also like empty space, vacant space, right? As we talk about planning and zoning and new development, what are we doing to create, to sort of connect the creative sector to those opportunities so that we're, to my point of like built to last, we're building neighborhoods and areas that have roots that are deep. And so I look at space in a couple of different ways. Yes, the sort of obvious, where can art live? Where does it perform? Where does it, where do we engage with it? But I also am very much a part of like, how does creative thinking and creative thought improve our lives beyond the tangible, this is a dancer, this is a painter, this is a singer.
Then you mentioned, and this is going to be my second point, you mentioned planning and zoning and city planning. One of the things, when you hear stories about how a band or a visual artist got their roots, invariably you hear some portion where they go, I was living in this really crappy apartment with like 3 guys, and the bar downstairs had an open mic night, and we wandered in there and we found the bass player, and now we're the Stone Roses, or now, you know, Bob Dylan met Joan Baez at some club. Like, housing is a huge part of this. The spaces we live in and do business in are a huge part of this. I'm a politics reporter. I'm going to ask you this. You're the director of arts, culture, and entertainment. Do you ever talk to the planning and zoning people? Do you ever talk to the mayor and the city planner and the developers in Hartford and say, we need some affordable housing. We need some mixed-use housing. We need to be intentional about how we build these spaces. What do those conversations look like? Because it is inherently political how these things get constructed.
It is, and I am really blessed to work for a mayor and work in a city in which our conversations do have synergy. They are cross-collaborative. I have conversations with Director Jeff Ocker. I have conversations with Mayor Palam. You know, like I have these conversations directly with them, and I am the first person to say, where is the creative sector in this conversation? To your point, right? That like it's not just good for the band to find its bass player, it's good for the lawyer to have the place to come after work to decompress,
Totally.
to listen to some great music. And that's how neighborhoods are built, right?
Right.
And so the conversation we have isn't just about the pretty things, which I think is how people often wedge artistic conversations, right? It's like, we'll bring you in when it's pretty. But it's like, no, actually, if I get you in that crappy apartment when you're 20, figuring it out, and you build a community in a neighborhood, you're staying.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not looking as soon as you get the next big job with the next big check to move to the big house, right? You might actually want to move to that beautiful penthouse condo because now we're talking about different, you know, diversity of housing within a city. So yeah, I'm lucky because I have great minds and big thinkers at the table, and we're dreaming big about what's possible and how we can expand the city of Hartford.
Yeah, I mean, to that point though, Mike, actually, I'm glad that you brought up housing because the thing I was going to bring up is business growth. I mean, I think that also plays I mean, when you talk about having a packed house in a theater, or you talk about filling a gallery when you've got a young, you know, a starving artist that really wants to get their art out there, wants to really be discovered, and they're hoping that they get that. You know, there is a sense of you need to have a good business, I think, community to be able to support that and bring the people in, because it's not enough to just go to the show. You've got to have the restaurants that are there. You've got to have the hotels that are there. You've got to have the transit. You know, it's so I think that's a big part of it too. And do you find you're in those conversations as well?
I do. I want to first say, like, I am working to put an end to the conversation around starving artists.
That
an artist doesn't need to starve to be great. And that actually, as a people, as a humanity, the least of us is the best of us, right? And so if we will contend with and agree that someone needs to starve for their labor, then we're going to continue.
It's garbage. I agree.
So, like,
love that.
And also, you're right that the patrons of the arts since Western, you know, the beginning of Western civilization has always been a business class, an aristocratic class, right? And that is still very true, I think, of our culture. I'm curious about how we shift that, right? And so that really the arts becomes a true town hall. I think we're missing, you know, we say the words town hall. We have a lot of words we say that have lost their meaning. And I think art spaces, whether it's a theater or a museum or a club, a nightclub, or a restaurant, become these conveners of us, and that we have more opportunity to brush against each other in ways that are not charged politically, racially, or otherwise, and that we can really be like, that sweater is amazing. Tell me more about yourself, right? And have those opportunities to grow community.
It's interesting. I've always wondered that because that narrative of the starving artist exists kind of in our industry too. Where there's almost this thing of like, everyone has that time in their life where they're kind of the starving journalist or starving artist. It almost seems like a paradox. Like I said, like the origin story of so many great artists is the crappy apartment in Greenwich Village or something like that. Is there an ideal where we can get to where it's like you're still striving but not necessarily starving?
I think that's exactly it. And it's funny because I think there's a little bit of like leave yourself behind, right? Like I was starving. I was, you know, starving whatever my ideal version of what I wanted to be is. And in order to become an adult, I have to leave that part of me behind. And so we have a lot of adults who have lost their imagination, have lost their artistry, have lost their ability to connect, because it's like that's the grown-up thing to do. And so I might borrow that and shift it from starving to striving, because that is where you start. And also, I think we need to get back to a time where young people could actually afford a crappy apartment.
Yes, exactly.
That I think that growth, that like moment of growth is essential to be the kind of functioning adult citizen we would like. And right now there's a lot, because that housing opportunity doesn't exist, right? You've either got to have $2,500 a month or nothing, right? There is nothing, you know. Our idea of affordability is about poor people and not just like
So much like
Yeah.
how you don't like starving artists, that's how I feel about when we say affordable housing. I'm always like workforce housing because I think there's this picture, and that's really not what we're talking about. We're talking
housing.
We're talking about people who need a roof over their heads.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
there's
what it's called.
Exactly. And
That's
there's
what
a
it is.
spectrum of that. And if we can
Correct.
get the mom who is tired of her son being in the basement aligned
Hi,
with
Mom.
the with
You just
you
called
know,
Mike's really right,
right,
but it's
right.
okay.
Mike's
We're
like,
gonna go
"I
to
love
therapy
you, Mom.
after
I
this session.
appreciate
It's
you."
okay.
But if we can align those two, what feel like different constituencies together,
Exactly.
we can have a real honest conversation about
Mm-hmm.
what we all need.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. We're going to take another break. We're going to come back. I have another question for you to wrap things up. We'll be right back here on Made Conversations.
Cool.
And welcome back to Made Conversations. I want to wrap it up. We talked a lot about space, a lot about Hartford. I want to ask you, help me plan an evening in Hartford. I mean, usually I get off work at the Capitol. I go to like Max downtown,
Okay.
have a burger, and then I go home.
Okay.
Help me plan. I mean, there are nights when I'm at Pig's Eye and Black Eyed Sally's, but tell me, what's a artistic night in a capital city look like?
Okay, so first, what's your preference? What's your preferred art form?
I
'Cause we've
love
got it all.
I'm
live
kind of loving
music.
this. I always wonder
love
what Mike's
live
really
music.
does
Okay.
on a
I really love
Friday
live
night.
music.
So you already are a bit of an inside scooper because you know that Pig's Eye and Black Eyed Sally's is the spot.
Yeah.
But did you know that Real Artways is also a really essential place to see
I did not.
music?
Where's this?
So that's in the Parkville area.
Okay.
It's on Arbor Street. They're actually about to embark on a huge renovation. They are known most for movies, and so they're going to expand and have 4 different theaters. But they have music there. They have gallery space. So I'd be like, then you're going to go over there. And Parkville is actually a really amazing neighborhood,
Yeah.
organically grown artistic neighborhood. And Parkville Sounds is up the street on Park Street by an amazing couple who have bringing like Grammy-nominated folks. And they host every now and then some sort of like come in and listen to artists that are performing.
Oh, neat.
And then I would pop you back down to Parkville Market. This is sort of a Parkville
Yeah. But
centric
there's-
itinerary,
yeah.
but you're a music guy, so I'm gonna give you that. And then come down to Parkville Market because you can grab some food, one more bite, and there's almost always music playing in their courtyard and in the wintertime inside the market as well. So that would be my
Wow.
itinerary
Yeah.
for music. Yeah.
I like
Okay,
it. I love
so
it.
if Mike is like, "Hey, let's go on a Friday night," and this is the exact plan, I'm gonna be like, "Taneisha told you what to do."
Yeah.
I'm
Told
gonna
you
know
what it
right
is.
away.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna know right
Yeah.
away. That is so cool, though.
Tanisha, have you been to any of the Made events yet?
I haven't.
Well, you gotta come.
gotta come.
You gotta
Wow.
come to the one. It's in the fall. It's gonna be somewhere in Fairfield County. We'll have the details. MadeConnecticut.com, the LinkedIn page. It's the theme. Each one of them has themes like innovation and
Nice.
workforce. This one, to talk about music, the theme is reputation.
Yes.
Okay. What's your rep?
Yeah.
Get our rep right.
Yeah.
Music is the way to do it.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I love this.
I agree. I think either art or music or I mean any of those I think gives a good reputation. So
Yeah.
I'm down. You should definitely come and
I
join
will be
us.
there. I
Yeah,
will be there.
Connecticut-made.com. Do we get it
Perfect.
right by this?
I think so.
I hope so.
And if we didn't,
Ready? I'm
a
a
very artistic editor will help
Exactly. I
us
was
out.
gonna say
I
somebody
was
will
like,
edit
I
this
feel
out.
like there's an Instagram. Connecticut Made, is that your Insta handle?
I think so.
Connecticut-made.com.
Yeah, and you can find the links to all the socials there.
Awesome.
Stay up to date. The
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn group. Anthony's big on the LinkedIn group, so join the
Okay.
LinkedIn group.
All right.
I mean,
And we'll see you soon. We'll see you for more conversations. We'll see you for more events. And we'll see you for some live music in Hartford.
Yes.
Can't
Thank you so
wait.
much.
Thank you guys.
And thank you all for joining us again.